Connecting Central Texas. This is Good Morning Texas.
I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. And we will fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years.
Former President Donald Trump responding to another historic indictment, this time from the Justice Department. Good morning, I'm Joey Horta.
And I'm Sharday LeRae. Well, Trump now faces 7 charges related to classified documents. Now, this makes him the first former or sitting president indicted on federal charges. 25 News Washington correspondent Joe St. George joins us live now. And Joe, what do we know about this indictment so far?
Well, most importantly, we need to note off the top here that this indictment hasn't actually been revealed yet. All of this is based on sourcing. We expect that to probably happen sometime on Tuesday. That's when we expect the initial appearance by Mr. Trump in a federal courthouse in Miami. That information revealed by Mr. Trump himself on Truth Social last night. He was the one who really broke this news. His team was ready for this, by the way. They immediately sent out fundraising letters. They immediately had a video ready to go, so they certainly were not caught off guard here. You mentioned the big headline at the top, right? There's a lot of people waking up with us in Texas who are supporters of the former president, regardless whether or not you support him, you don't support him. This is happening, and it's going to impact the 2024 campaign and his ability to campaign because he's already had an indictment at the state level in New York, remember. That trial is set to happen in March of next year. Presumably, this will be on a similar timetable, perhaps more into the summer of next year, depending on how the lawyers structure this. Mr. Trump's legal timetable, perhaps more into the summer of next year, depending on how the lawyers structure this. Mr. Trump's legal team will certainly want to stretch this out as much as possible. As far as the counts themselves, we're expecting at least 7 counts in this indictment when it is eventually revealed. One of those counts is expected to be connected, at least one of those counts is expected to be connected to the Espionage Act. Now, that may sound like something out of a James Bond movie. You hear that a lot with spying. Mr. Trump isn't expected to be accused of any spying here. The Espionage Act is actually a very lengthy federal law. It does have provisions in it that focus on the mishandling of sensitive documents, which again is what this case is really all about. It stems from that search by the FBI at Mar-a-Lago earlier this year, which reportedly revealed around 300 or so sensitive documents. And again, Miami will be the location for this appearance. And if you're wondering why Miami, typically prosecutors like to bring the charges in the jurisdiction in which the allegation allegedly took place, the Miami Federal Courthouse, part of the jurisdiction that encompasses Mar-a-Lago in South Florida. So here we go, another indictment of former President Trump. This is the first federal indictment for Mr. Trump.
Well, let's talk about the difference here, Joe. So he's got those charges already in New York he's been facing. Why is that different from these new charges?
Well, to some degree, this charge, this allegation at the federal level is more serious than the one in New York. And what do I mean by that? The New York indictment focused a lot on what would commonly be referred to in law schools as white-collar crimes. Falsifying business records is one big allegation in that indictment. Campaign finance violations is another allegation there. This is talking about things like the Espionage Act, federal charges. These carry with it potential penalties of 10 years or so. Another key difference here, and this is step Z, Joey, and we're on step A here, but any federal charge could very well qualify for a pardon or some clemency by the President of the United States. So that's something to note, the difference between a federal crime and a state crime. I can't stress this enough. This isn't the end of the legal conundrums. It's still very possible we could get a third indictment, not just at the state level, but also at the federal level as well. The special counsel, Jack Smith, who's bringing this charge with approval from Attorney General Merrick Garland, could very well charge Mr. Trump in connection to January 6th or election interference. Remember, this indictment is solely focusing on classified documents. And we can't forget about what's going on in Georgia as well. A prosecutor in Fulton County could bring charges against Mr. Trump at the state level in Georgia related to election interference. Again, all of these legal conundrums beginning to add up, and certainly could potentially impact his ability to campaign next year, even attend things like debates. Certainly harder to attend a debate in a key primary state, let's say next spring, while you're in the midst of potentially multiple criminal trials. I will say this from a political perspective, this is breaking along party lines very similar to the last indictment. Many Republicans saying this is a weaponization of the Department of Justice. One United States senator, a conservative senator from Ohio, Senator J.D. Vance, saying this is moral and constitutionally wrong. Meanwhile, many Democrats are saying no one is above the law. The last time Mr. Trump was indicted, he received a bump in the polls, actually. We'll see if he has a similar fate this time. But again, all eyes will be on a Miami federal courthouse Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time.
Joe, thank you for that line from the Capitol Rotunda this morning.
Well, hundreds of dogs are waking up in kennels this morning, waiting for someone to give them a better life.
That could be you. Up next here in 3 minutes, we'll take you there to meet this little ball of energy. He's ready to go home with you today.